Who here has ever had bad advice? Has anybody ever been given bad advice? I have, and a majority of that bad advice came from my older brother when I'm the child. And then you have siblings in here? Okay, anybody have older siblings in here? Okay, so you may know, my brother was a prankster growing up, and he liked to give me bad advice because he knew that I would take it, and then he would laugh. And so I remember when I was a kid, there were multiple occasions where I was like, what should I wear today? And my friend would like give me really good advice, and then my brother would be like, yeah, you should totally wear like strands with polka dots with like neon colors. See, I just couldn't pull it off. I looked like a clown. Some people could pull it off, but I looked like a clown. I went to school and my brother just laughed his head off about it. And so I got bad advice and I went with that. And it happens. We get bad advice, we get good advice. It happens in our lives. So for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about the famous kings in scriptures. Do you guys remember who the first king that we talked about was a couple of weeks ago? David, good job. Okay, so we talked about David and how he made some mistakes. We talked about, who did we talk about last week? Starts with an A. Absalom. So Absalom was one of David's sons. And last time we talked about how he was so confident in himself and he was like, I'm the best, I don't need anybody's help. And he ultimately ended up failing. He didn't even become the king. This week, we're going to talk about Solomon, who is another one of David's sons, but he actually becomes the king. And so, brief history and pre-news real quick. The kings we're talking about, they did not live yesterday. They lived about 3,000 years ago in Israel. And for a long time, Israel didn't have like a human king. They were just ruled by the Lord and by God. But then they decided, we don't really want to be ruled by God anymore. We want an actual human being like everybody else has. And so we want a ruler. And so God gave them that. He gave them David. And then afterwards we have Solomon. And so I'm going to read real quick 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 10 for you guys. All right, it says, "Then David slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. And the time that David reigned over Israel was 40 years. He reigned 7 years in Hebron and 33 years in Jerusalem. So Solomon sat on the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was firmly established." So basically what that is saying is that it wasn't like a dramatic change. There was like a massive war or anything. David just grew old and died. And then Solomon, his son, took over the throne and became king. Does that make sense? Is everybody following? Okay. So then I'm going to read 1 Kings chapter 3 through 14 real quick. And this is talking about Solomon as in like the beginning of his reigning, okay? It says, "Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. And the king went to Gibeah to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. At Gibeah, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, 'Ask what I shall give you.' And Solomon said, 'You have showed great and steadfast love to your servant David my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness and righteousness and in uprightness of heart toward you. And you have kept for him his great and steadfast love, and have given him a son to sit on his throne this day. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father. Although I am but a little child, I do not know how to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. Give your servant therefore an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who was able to govern this your great people? It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this, and God said to him, Because you have asked this, and have not asked for yourself long life, or riches, or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right, behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has been before you, and none like you shall arise after you. I give you also what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. And if you will walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments, as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days." So all that is saying is, Solomon had a dream, and the Lord came to him and said, "What do you want me to give you?" And what did Solomon ask for? Wisdom, exactly. And I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of us, that wouldn't be our first request. Solomon could have totally asked, let me be rich and famous, let me never die, let me the list can go on. Let me have 100 gallons of ice cream, whatever you may be wanting in that moment. But Solomon in his dream said, no, I want your wisdom, Lord. I want to be able to discern, and I want to be able to know what you have called me to do, which I think is really, really cool. And that leads us to James, the verse that we read today, James 1:5. Does anybody want to read it real quick? Going once. Until his eldest got it. You want to read it so fast?
If you love wisdom, let him ask God against generously to all without approach, and it will be given. Us.
Isn't that awesome? So all that is saying is that we literally just have to ask God. Isn't that so cool? Like, we don't have to go outside and like do this crazy ritual, do this crazy dance, sing a song, whatever. We literally just have to be, hey God, cool, you give me the wisdom in this moment. And it's so easy when you have a relationship with him. I think it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I have to be perfect. I have to have the right words. If I say the wrong word, I have to start all over. Then I just can't have wisdom ever. But you literally just have to walk up to him and be like, Lord, I need your wisdom in this moment because I don't know what to do. And so that's what we're talking about today, is when you're not sure who to listen to, you can easily turn to the Lord. And so we're running low on time, so let's skip something real quick. I want us to do something real quick. Everybody be as quiet as you possibly can be. Just like no moving, completely quiet, okay? Can you guys still hear me? Not? Okay. So you can read your name music that is completely quiet and because you're listening. And a lot of the times, I'll put this back over here. A lot of the times what happens is we need to make a space for the Lord so that we can listen to him. And that needs to be quiet. Quite literally and also metaphorically. And so I encourage you guys, when you're going to the Lord, all that noise that we were talking about with school and friends and movies and books and sports and the list just goes on forever. When you want to seek wisdom from the Lord and you want to hear him, put yourself in a quiet place. It can be literally, you can go to your room, close your door. Maybe you need to go outside because your house is crazy. I had a very loud house as a kid. Whatever it may be, but when you actually set up that place and that quietness for the Lord, he will come there and he will speak and you will be able to hear him and you won't have to doubt, was that the Lord or was that somebody else? Because you'll know. And so we're going to break out to groups real quick and talk about this. And yeah.